And Ganguzza.
Hello.
Well, welcome to Lingofest. Thank you so much for making the time. Um,
Thank
I
you.
You bet. I was talking to Sarah,
Mm.
one of your team members. I think she's a star. I'm sure you agree.
She is absolutely a star.
She's an amazing star. I was
She
talking to
is.
her, and I was like, trying to get her pity for because I did too many things. I was like, hey, I'm multitask, and she's like, child, you have no idea what multitasking is unless you live with Anne Gangus.
Well, okay, I'm going to take that as a high compliment from Sarah.
It is definitely. And she was not complaining. She was saying she's so good at being able to do so many things, and each one of them has to be done professionally.
Mm.
Um, and I know that is very hard to do anything professional, let alone several things at the same time. And so I went to your, as I was telling you before we started, I went to your LinkedIn and I was scrolling. I thought I was in Facebook scrolling timeline. you have so
LinkedIn
you have
knows a
so much.
lot about me.
You have a lot of experience. And so, and as I was telling you, I sort of it's good actually to visit somebody's LinkedIn because it gives you a good picture of who they are and explains. Often it explains why they are where they are. Sometimes, right? And
Absolutely.
in your case, I was wondering for the longest time, how come somebody who is a voice talent, an artist basically, is so into AI, this whole issue about AI, and not only into it, but into it with gusto, meaning, meaning you're not afraid to ask questions, you're not afraid to do deep dives into technical stuff. And so when I look at your background, I say, I see she has a strong technical background, and so she's not afraid. She understands
Hmm.
it's just like anything else. It's a thing you can understand if you put your mind to it. So I want to start with that, if you don't mind,
Sure.
your solid technical background. So the computer visualization specialist. It is my favorite title.
It is the best title ever, computer visualization specialist. And I remember I was given that title because I was going to be doing a lot of things like just exploring technologies, possibly teaching technologies and getting them to work for not only the staff members, but for the students as well, where I was working. And they just said, you know what? It's all encompassing. So this is going to be your title. And I love it. It's like one of my favorite titles, computer
It-
visualization specialist.
yeah,
So
I mean, it has a lot of oomph to it.
yeah, it does. It absolutely does. And
And
I
so,
just I
and so, what did you?
loved it. Loved doing my technological work there.
Yeah, yeah. And so, what? I mean, you're a voice person, so it's great to see that you did a lot of visual. You were in CAD design as well,
I
right?
was. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. That was something that I went to when I went to college, I learned CAD, and that was when CAD was just becoming popular. I mean, I also drafted, which I had a drafting table in my dorm room. Remember that? And anybody who drafts, like manually drafts, knows that that's artistry. And I remember working on it, but I was like, I wish I was a little bit better at this drawing thing. But I kept at it. And then I remember one day wandering into the computer lab, and
Mm.
this was in the 80s. And I saw these CAD stations that had three-dimensional models on them. And I was like, oh, and it was like, it just hit me. It was
Mhm.
just one of those things where this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, so I started taking that class and then really learned about the visualization with the technology, which is the creative plus the tech. And I think that's kind of followed my life with everything that I've done. It's been technical and creative at the same time. And I absolutely loved it. I graduated, college with an engineering degree, but interestingly enough, I was hired because of my CAD CAM capabilities and hired for a firm that designed artificial hip and knee prosthetics. So I was a biotechnical engineer, so to speak, which was really amazing. I designed hip and knee prosthetic implants with computers, and it was a whole lot of creative and technical fun at once.
Wow. Well, I mean, again, that explains quite a bit because it shows that you're able to combine sort of your left brain and your right brain
Hmm.
in a way, right? The art
Yeah.
and the science and engineering. And I think that's why you're not afraid to go and try things out, right? You just try things out all the time. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been on the bleeding edge of technology. That's what I've always, it's a thrill for me to learn and take the challenge to see how I can make that technology work. Obviously in good ways for me. And for the people that I'm helping
yeah, yeah.
or
So
educating.
absolutely. And so, how did you go from the visual to the spoken or the audio? Well, how was
Well,
that transition?
so I worked for a good almost 20 years in the same in the educational institution where I was hired as a staff member.
Mhm.
So I had the best of both worlds. I got to play with the technology that we were, purchasing from year to year, learn it, and then implement it and also teach it.
Mhm.
And so back in the 90s, we were experimenting with voice over IP technologies from Cisco. And so I was the project manager installing phone systems in our other campuses, as well as we were nonprofit and state run organizations. So we were probably the largest install in the state of New Jersey back when voice over IP became a thing. And I was that person overseeing the project. And at the end of it, I'd, go to the clients and I'd say, okay, your phones are all installed. And so you just need to record that welcome greeting in your phone menu tree. And they would be like, oh, no, 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 you'll do it, right? So I
Oh.
ended up recording, the welcome greeting and the IVR, all of the prompts. And, it was fun because for me as a tech person, where people would always call me up saying, oh, my computer's down, my email's not working, always like something is not wrong. I could go into an office, pick up a phone, and record my greetings with
Hmm.
nobody disturbing me, because you couldn't have anybody disturb you. It was a live recording on the phone. So that was how it was done back in the day. Now you just can upload files. But before that, you had to pick up the phone, dial in a code, and then record your greetings. So I
Yeah.
did that for like thousands of phone systems. And, ultimately people will be like, hey, I think I heard your voice. I think I heard your voice on the phone system. And they would always say, oh, you sound so professional. You sound great. You should do that for a living. So I kind of looked into it and I said, oh, voiceover, it's a thing. And got training and started to, got a demo. And I say that in a quick fashion, but it wasn't a quick fashion. And then ultimately started kind of doing a side hustle with voiceover. And it was a whole lot of fun. And today I still do tons. I do something telephony and IVR every single day. And I
Oh.
love it. Just because I remember when I was recording, when I was working part time and I'd go into an office, lock myself in, it was like my own little world. It was my own little creative world where no one could bother me. And I really love that. And it's, when I go into my studio to do voiceover, it's like my own little world, doing my fun creative things, which by the way, ends up being also a technical thing, when you edit and, do all the things to it. So it really is something that brings me a lot of joy, and really, allows my brain to be active at all moments during the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I can see that. I can see where, okay, I'm gonna get some time. We're gonna be productive. Everything is rational. I'm gonna be creative, right? I'm in control. All right.
Yeah.
So I think artists are like that, right? The artists they like to be in a place where they can create without being bothered. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
I
so
agree. I agree.
yeah, and I think the powerful combination is being an artist and as well as somebody who's not afraid of technology, and that is not. I don't think that's a commodity. I don't think a lot of people are like that. Usually, they're either one or the other. So sysadmin, visualization, network consultants, so all of that stuff is sort of the foundation, right? That feeds your, let's say, the technical track. And so today, one of the things that you're doing, I think, and I'm impressed really by the quality of what you've done is tackle this issue of AI within the context of voice talents. Would it
Mm.
be at a high level an accurate description of what the theme is?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I want to learn. I think I'm a lifelong learner, and always. I think the death of me is being stagnant at anything. So I'm always wanting to learn more, and I think that's also a trademark of a good teacher. Wanting to learn, always wanting to learn, and always again being on that edge of technology. and then sharing that knowledge because I get excited by it. And then being able to share that is something that, I wanted to do in my podcast. I wanted to take away the fear of technology because I was in the technological areas for so long. That's always what, I've battled is people's fear of technology. And I think that there's something to be said for trying to alleviate people's fear of the technology so that they can use it for good. And of course, I'm the eternal optimist. Always technology is always for good, because if I believed anything else, right, I wouldn't be as excited about it, and I don't think I would push forward. And I
Yeah.
think that's most people, if they can eliminate that fear, they can then move forward through it, to really find the place where it can help themselves as well as help others.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, technology is just like a, piece of stick. Is it good? Is it bad? Or it depends what you want to do with it, right? And so
Exactly.
the more people are involved, like you are optimistic and they want to do good things with it, then okay, then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And if we leave it to others who are going to use it in a bad way, then yeah. So I'm a fan of optimists. Let me just say
Thank.
that.
I think
Because
I am the eternal optimist.
you're right, because
Absolutely.
I think optimists are the ones who make the world go around in a good way. And so, so how many interviews did you do on the AI thing?
Oh my goodness.
Uh,
I have, I think, over 30 episodes, and every single one of them is
wow.
talking with someone, pretty much in the AI field, as opposed to maybe, I would say maybe four, maybe 5 to 8 of them are with other people in the voiceover industry, because I wanted to
Mhm.
really create an educational series for the voiceover community that would break down AI. What's it about? What's it used for? And then also, I think to kind of be that person in the industry, representative of the industry, to say to the AI community, hey, this is how we've been doing our jobs for the last 30, 40 years, and how can we merge and use AI technology to help expand our our to expand our good things that we do, expand our product, as opposed to running away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we take a step back, because I think a lot of people who are watching may not know what is this thing AI. I mean, what is this AI issue here? And perhaps we can just go back to the baseline and explain what that is. So, well, how would you describe this issue?
So I think the issue is synthetic voices, because of voiceover artists, this is what we do for our livelihood. Our voices, our product, and anything that would come to threaten and take away our work or take away our product is indeed something that initially people are going to push back on. So synthetic voices, because they've been really getting good. I think that now is encroaching on what voice talent think is our territory and our creative artistry, and that is very scary for some people. And
Mhm.
the I guess the gut reaction is to push back, saying, number one, why would we want to support something that's going to take our jobs away, and especially something that will take our jobs away that maybe not be compensated for in the same way.
Mhm.
And so, where's the value for what I've spent my life, or spent my career, honing those artistry skills to be, a human, voiceover narrator that can connect with an audience from behind the microphone. I don't take kindly to people trying to, push me out of the way and take over my job, because it's my livelihood.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
is I think the biggest fear.
Yeah.
And so it's also the lack of technological knowledge of really, what is a synthetic voice? How is it created? And how can we maybe, instead of, pushing back, how can we allow that to broaden our skill set and work with us as we evolve and move forward?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, what do you stand on this yourself?
Oh, I'm a tech girl, so I stand that I think that we can use it to broaden our skill set and to use it for good, and to use it to move forward because it's coming whether we want it or not. I mean, there's no way that I'm going to say
Mhm.
no. It's coming. And so why not evolve with it? Because if we don't, somebody else is going to. And so therefore, if I want to retain any part of this job that I love and I'm passionate about, creating voices or communicating and effectively making a difference from behind the mic, how can I do that moving forward?
Yeah.
So,
And so, uh, so let me play the role of the voice talent who is pushing back. Like, well, Anne, listen, this technology is going to replace my voice. All right, and so I'm gonna play that role as if I didn't hear what you just said, and you have to
mm-hmm.
repeat it or something. How would you start and say, listen, first of all, calm down. What would you say to somebody who's just like they are convinced that automation in this case
Mm-hmm.
is a big threat, and therefore it is a negative thing, and sort
Yeah.
of they're reacting viscerally in anger and in, I don't know, denial or whatever it may be. How would you calm them down as a step one?
Well, step one is always reminding them that the technology is coming, whether we want it or not.
Mm, mhm.
And so, that's just in
Mm,
any industry, right? The technology comes, and technology is supposed to help us to be more efficient, to do our jobs better. And it's happened not just in voiceover. We're not that special. I mean, it happens in every industry. There's technologies that come along, and we evolve. And I will first of all say, well, it's going to be there no matter what we do. So let's figure out a way to get ahead of the technology and well, if we could get ahead of it, to get ahead of it in our industry, right? And figure out how we can make it work for us instead of replacing us. Because I think that humans are at the very, core of technology, right? So there's how will it evolve? I mean, I don't know if humans are going to replace our voices. I don't know if that's a general mission or objectives. How I think we as humans are always trying to figure out how can it help us? How can it better? Hopefully, how can it better society? And so I don't know if because humans are developing it, if they're going to develop it to replace our voices. I don't think so. I think that we're going to find a lot of really wonderful ways to use it along the way. And I think there will be certain aspects of our industry that will be definitely affected by it. I mean, I talk to, and I didn't want to say the name, but I could talk to my Alexa every single day. So, and I have 5 of them in my house. Those types of technologies, they're just happening, and people are, utilizing them more and more. So it's going to become more commonplace for people to get used to that sound of a synthetic voice. And as that synthetic voice gets better and better, why can't we use it to do those things, to do those jobs that maybe we don't need to be present for? And other things such as we're aging. My voice is not going to be the same today as it is 10 years from today, so I might want to have something in place that can create a source of passive income for me as well. And that is what I will always tell people. And let's say, but there's no money, and I'm like, but what do you mean there's no money? It's like $10, $25 you didn't have yesterday. That to me, passive income is like, well, I didn't have to do anything. I didn't really have to do anything for that. So that's another $10 in my pocket. So enough of that is going to be something that, maybe supplement an income for somebody, and maybe do very well with in the
yeah,
future.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
that it's trying to convince them that it's not taking place or replacing their voice. It is enhancing their voice so that there can be a human Anne and there can be a synthetic Anne.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, from my end as a technologist and somebody, because I do care about these issues of how does technology affect human beings, not only directly, but also in terms of, the labor structure and social structure and economic structure and all that. And my thinking is the following. First of all, in terms of the audio is becoming as a category is becoming huge, right? So podcasting and social audio, those are things that are just exploding right now. And then the existence of these AirPods, and then the existence of smart speakers, they all are telling us one thing, which is people want to consume audio because audio enables them to consume information on the go without having their eyes and hands, be captive. Okay. So that's one thing. So audio as a category is becoming massive. Number one. I think number two, I think not just voice talents, but lots of folks they equate income with labor. All right. I have to work to make money. I have to work, work, work. Um, but there's another model, as you said, right, which is you create something that you own that is of value. Let's say I publish a bestseller. Okay. That's it. I may retire, right? Because that thing is going to give me income forever, right? Or maybe 3 or 4 sellers, or maybe a bestseller and I become personality and people invite me and I become a property of value,
Mhm.
right? As opposed to labor. And so one of the things I was thinking about is imagine, because of number one, which is the fact that audio is becoming a massive thing, and all of these brands, they're going to have to worry about their sound, not only their look and feel on the website, but their sound, right? I feel that brands are going to say, I'm gonna go get Ganguzza, and Ganguzza is going to voice everything,
Mhm.
right? From here to eternity, right? And so I'm gonna buy her voice. And we're gonna create, an arrangement where she will get handsomely compensated because she is taking her voice and giving it to us. And then somebody else will go to, I don't know, Cheryl Hawling and say, I want your voice. I want to buy your voice, right? And I will pay you handsomely for it. And everything that we do that is voiced will be voiced by your voice. And so that just like a website has a look and feel, a brand will have a sound and feel, right? And that sound has to be consistent and so on. So that's sort of my feeling. And I think I agree with your basic thing, which is, hey, you can pout as much as you want, or pound on sand. This technology is coming. You might as well strategize
Yeah.
and inform yourself. And I think what you're doing is a great thing, because it's sort of opening people's eyes to the fact that it's an issue on the one hand, but an issue that is not a simple, elimination,
Well, I
right?
think too though is that I hear what you're saying too, but what we're used to as an industry is, we aren't necessarily the voice forever for a brand. We are temporarily one-shot deal, maybe a few years. That is where that comes into place. So we have the whole thing for usage for our
Yeah,
voice. And I
right.
think that that's where people think, well, if it's going to replace my voice, and well, you can purchase my voice, a one-shot deal, that doesn't necessarily, support me in the years coming if you're going to pay me a one-off. So I think that usage needs to really come
Yeah,
into play, and
absolutely,
that's,
absolutely. No, no,
yeah,
I'm saying they compensate you handsomely, meaning the voice of a person is going to be so important that they need to have you there, because who knows what else they will
agreed,
need you to do, right?
agreed, yes,
And so I think, and so it has to be there'll be demand right now. My point really is, the bottom line of my point is this: I think people are working with assumptions that are not necessarily going to last, right?
yeah,
Right. So work, making your money through labor. How about working because of property? You own this.
value,
Value,
yep,
exactly.
yep,
Value. All right. And then the other thing is, here and there, you do 5 or 6 or 7. Maybe the model, I don't know. I'm
hmm
just brainstorming. Maybe the model is your voice belongs to a brand, and they compensate you enough to make a nice living.
and I think, and I agree, I completely agree, and I think that in our industry, the issue of value is where people are, seeing a disconnect there. So
Mhm.
synthetic voices don't say value to a voice talent necessarily, especially because we're so used to going in to our studios, creating that voice, right, selling that voice, those audio files, and that is our establishment of value. Now what happens is, if we are not necessarily going in a studio creating that voice each and every time, right, then the value becomes another step further away for us, and we lose a little bit of that control. Remember how we love control of our creative, right? We love the control of our creative. With a synthetic voice, it kind of makes it a step beyond,
Mhm.
right, the creative, because it's no longer required for us to be in the studio to
Mhm.
provide that voice. And so now our voices are offloaded to a server, which there are other people handling, right,
Mhm.
other people handling who maybe gets to use that voice, other people that will determine what we're saying. other
Hmm.
people that will determine what companies we're
Hmm.
going to be voicing for. And I think that's where the fear in
Yeah.
our industry comes from, that
Yeah.
that control is no longer in our hands. And so we need to, I always was like, look, this is the best time for us to get involved in the industry, because we can start to establish standards and policies and ground rules at this point that will work in our favor. I mean, don't let someone else determine that for you. We
Mhm.
need to have a voice and say our voices are worth something, and we want to own them. We want to, we
Mhm.
want to have a license for that, and we want to have. And I think what most people in the voiceover industry tend to not see, and it's only because they're not familiar with the technology, is that it becomes a revenue share, because
Mhm.
no longer is it just us in the studios creating our voices. It is us with a partner, with a company that has the data set, that has the model, that now we work together to establish
Yeah.
those ground rules as to where our voice is used and how often it's used and who
Yeah.
has it.
Yeah.
So
What I